Hey folks, in this episode we're going to learn how to make this wind turbine in this scene here. It's going to be an easy tutorial. We're going to have to enable an add-on, which will be the landscape add-on. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to select everything and hit delete, and we'll start with a blank canvas. The next thing I'm going to do, go to edit, preferences, we'll go to add-ons and we'll type in land for landscape. And then enable this ant landscape add-on here. Once you've enabled that, we're good to go. So let's model the wind turbine first. So I'm going to hit numpad 1. I'm then going to hit shift A and we're going to add a mesh, and it's going to be a cylinder. We'll keep it at 32 vertices. I'm then going to tab into edit mode and I'm going to hit G and hold down control. Drag it up on the Z-axis until the base of the cylinder is level with the origin. So then when I scale, it's going to scale from the origin. I'll then tab into edit mode again, choose vertices select. So you've got vertices, which is these things here, that's a vertice. We've got edge select, which is this, and then we've got face select, which is this. Alternatively, you can hit 1, 2 or 3. So I'm going to hit number 1 for vertices select, and if I box select these, it won't select the ones behind. So then I'll go into X-ray view and then I'll box select all of these, and then it's selected everything. So I'll select all those top vertices. I'm going to hit G, Z, and we're going to drag this up. So that's 10 meters. I'm going to drag it up again, G, Z, holding down control, and I'll drag it up to about 20 meters. I'll then hit S.5 to scale it in by 0.5, and then I'll tab out of edit mode. This is going to serve as the main pole. I might actually delete the bottom face and the top face because we're not going to need those. So I'll tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit number 3 for face select. I'll then toggle out of X-ray view. I'll select this bottom face and I'm going to hit X and we're going to delete the face. I'll select this top face. I'll hit X and we're going to delete that face too. So I'll tab out of edit mode and then I'm going to hit Z, shade smooth. So now I'll create the housing at the top. I'll use a cylinder for that too. So shift A, add mesh, and we'll choose cylinder. I'll then hit RX90 to rotate it on the X-axis by 90 degrees. Hit G, Z, holding down control, drag it up to the top, to around about there. I'm going to go into side view. We're going to scale this down. So I'm going to hit S, hold down control. We'll scale it down to around about there. And then maybe I'll hit SY3 to scale it on the Y-axis by 3. And then I'm going to hit Control A to apply the scale. To tab into edit mode, I'm going to add a loop cut by hitting Control R. I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel till I've got 2 cuts there. I'll click that into place. I'll then go into face select. I'll select this back face. I'm going to hit S and we're going to scale it down to around about there. And then maybe I'm going to hit I to inset, and then I'm going to hit X to delete that face. I'll then hit number 1 to go into vertices select, and then I'm going to hit shift out and then select in between 2 vertices, which will select that edge loop. And then I'm going to hit Control F and select grid fill. Now we want that to line up as best we can. So we're going to open up this menu here and we're going to change the offset until it's nicely lined up. Okay, I'm happy with that. For this front face, I'm going to hit number 3 to go into face select. Maybe we can bring this in a little bit. G, Y, and I'll drag this in to around about there. Okay, again, I'm going to hit I for inset, and then I'm going to drag that out on the Y-axis. So G, Y, just drag that out on the Y-axis to around about there. I might inset it one more time, I, and then I'll hit G, Y, holding down control, and we'll bring it out to around about there. Then we'll just give it a flat face at the front, X, and delete the face. I'll go into vertices select by hitting number 1, hold down shift out and select that edge loop there, hit Control F and choose grid fill again. We're then going to have to change the offset so it's in line with the mesh. Excellent. I'll then tab out of edit mode. I'm going to hit Z, shade smooth. We might get some artifacts like bad shading here. We can sort that out by simply tabbing into edit mode. I'm going to hit Control R to add an edge loop, and I'm going to drag it across so it's close to that edge. I'll do the same for here. We'll drag this across till it's close to that edge, and I'll do one here, and maybe I can add one here as well. Okay, so now let's make the blades. I'm going to select these 2 objects and I'm going to hit H to hide. Alternatively, you can click these buttons here. If you can't see any of these, you just have them selected on this menu here. Go into front view. To make the blades, shift A, and we'll go for mesh, and let's choose the cylinder again. I'll then hit RY 90 degrees to rotate it on the Y axis by 90 degrees. Hit enter. I'm then going to go into edit mode and I'm going to hit G, X, holding down control, and we're going to snap the base of this cylinder to the origin. If I rotate, the origin's there. I then tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit 3 for face select. I'm going to select this face, go to front view, and then let's say we'll drag this out. I'm going to hit E to extrude and hit X to constrain it to the X axis. And we'll drag it to around about there. That's 20 meters. We can scale it down in a minute. That'll be fine for now. So I'm going to add a loop cut here and I'll drag it to around about there. Okay. Hit number 1 for vertice select. I'm going to select this bottom vertice here, and then I'm going to hit Shift S and I'm going to choose cursor to selected. And up here I'm going to change my transform pivot point to 3D cursor. I'll go into X-ray view. I'm then going to select all these vertices here and I'm going to hit SZ. I'm going to scale that up on the Z axis to around about there. Okay. So now I'm going to select this bottom vertice here. I'm going to hit Shift S and cursor to selected. I'll then select all of these. I'm going to hit SZ and we'll just scale this down to around about there. I'm going to hit G, X, and we're just going to drag them out a bit more just to get the proportions right. Okay, so now we're going to scale it on the Y axis. So I'm going to box select all of these vertices here. I'm going to change my pivot point to median point, and then I'm going to hit numpad 3 to go into side view. Alternatively, you can use the gizmo. I'm then going to hit SY and we're just going to scale these in on the Y axis to around about there, and then maybe I'll box select all these ones, go into side view again, and we're going to scale these down on the Y axis SY to around about there. Okay, so this is our blade. I'm going to tab out of X-ray view. I'll get a bit closer into here. So on my numpad, I'm going to push the period key. That will take us a bit closer. We'll go to face select. I'm going to select this end face. I'm going to hit I to inset, only a tiny bit, and then I'll hit S to scale it in. And then I'm going to hit X and delete the face. I'll go to number 1 for vertice select, and then I'm going to hit Shift out and select this outer loop here. Hit Control F and we'll select grid fill again. Let's just change the offset. Okay, it's not quite working, so I'm going to add another span. Right, I'm happy with that. So now if I tab out of edit mode, I'm going to hit Z for shade smooth. We're going to see a few artifacts here, but we're going to neaten this up. So now I'm going to add a couple of loop cuts here just to tighten up the topology. So I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to add a loop cut here, so Control R. I'm going to add a loop cut here, Control R. We also don't need this face here, so hit number 3 for face select and hit X and we'll delete the face. And maybe we can add a bit of detail here. Control R to add a loop cut, and then Control B to bevel that. And now I'm going to hit E, S, Shift, X, and that will scale it on every axis but the X axis. I'm going to hit Control R to add a loop cut, Control B to bevel it to around about there. Maybe we can add another loop cut in here, Control R, just to tighten up these edges. We don't have to go into great detail with these. It is a stylized render. If you was actually modelling a photorealistic one, I do recommend spending a bit more time. So I'm going to reactivate both of these cylinders. I'm then going to hit G, Z, and we're going to drag that up. I'm holding down Control, and then we're going to scale this down to around about there. So with the origin set in the middle here, I'm going to tab into edit mode, I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to hit G, X, holding down Control, bring it out to around about there. I'm going to go into X-ray view again, and then I'm going to hit number 1 for vertice select. We'll select all these end vertices, and we'll hit G, X, hold down Control, and we're just going to snap it in so it's intersecting here. Okay, so we'll now go to the object data over here, and we'll select the Y rotation to 0. I'm then going to hit Shift D, and on the Y rotation I'm going to hit 120 for 120 degrees. I'm going to hit Shift D again, and then on this Y rotation it's going to be 240 degrees. 360 divided by 3 is 120. With this one selected, I'm going to Shift select this blade and then Shift select this blade. I'm going to hit Control J, and that will join the mesh, so it's now one mesh. I then hit Control A and apply the scale. In fact, we'll do that for all objects, so I'll select all objects, hit Control A and apply the scale. Now with the blade selected, we're going to side view. We're going to hit G, Y, and we're just going to drag that on the Y axis to around about there. So now I'm going to go out of X-ray view. With the blade selected, hold down Shift and select the body, and I'm going to hit Control P, and we're going to select Set Parent Object Keep Transform. So now when I grab this and rotate it on the Z axis, the blades are going to follow, but I can still grab the blades and hit RY to rotate on the Y axis independently. Excellent. Let's just name these objects. Let's name this one to shaft. We'll rename this one to housing. and we'll rename this one to blades. So that's the wind turbine modelled. I'm just going to select all these objects and I'm going to hit M for move, and we're going to add it to a collection. So we'll go add collection, we'll rename this to turbine, and we'll click this button here, and that will move all those objects into this collection here called turbine. We can just mute that for now. I'm going to hit numpad 1 to go into front view. I'm going to hit Shift C to reset my cursor to the center of the scene, and with the landscape add-on active, I'm going to hit Shift A, mesh, and we'll choose landscape. Let's just zoom into that landscape there. We have got different presets here, but I'm just going to choose mountains. Maybe we'll go for mountains 1 for the foreground. So with that selected, I'm going to hit S10, we'll scale that up by 10, and then SX2, we'll scale it on the x-axis by 2, and then maybe SZ2, we'll scale it on the z-axis by 2. We'll hide that landscape. I'm going to add another landscape, so Shift A, add mesh, and we'll choose landscape. This time I'm going to choose mountain 1. We'll zoom into that object. We can change a random seed to something that we like, maybe something like that. I'll hit S10 to scale it up by 10, hit enter, and then I'm just going to drag that on the y-axis GY to round about there. Let's just add one more. Shift A, add mesh, and we'll go for landscape again. I'm going to keep the preset, but I'm just going to change the random seed just so there's a bit of variation there, something like that. I'll be happy with that, I think. And then I'm going to hit S10 to scale it up by 10. I'll then hit GY and we'll grab it on the y-axis to around about there. Re-enable our original landscape. Now we're going to have to add a camera into the scene just to build up a composition. Numpad 1 to go into front view, Shift A, add, and we'll go camera, camera. I'll then hit numpad 0 to go into camera view. If you haven't got a numpad, by the way, you can always go to view, viewport, camera, and it will take you into that view. And on the z-axis, I'm going to type 1.7 because that's usually eye level for a human being. Just drag this down to around about there, and then I'll select this landscape. I'm going to hit S, I'm just going to scale this down to around about there. I'll hit GY and we'll grab it on the y-axis to around about there, and then I'll hit SZ, we'll scale this down to around about there. So that's our foreground. I'm going to choose our next landscape, which is this one here. I'm going to hit S, and we're going to scale this up, and I'm going to hit GY. I'm going to grab this on the y-axis to around about there. It could be intersecting. As long as the intersection is out of camera view, we're all good. Maybe I'll GY, I'll bring it back about there. I could even hit GZ and we'll bring it down so it's not intersecting. That's even better. And then I'll hit SZ and I'll scale it down on the Z axis around about there perhaps. Then I'll hit SX2 and then maybe I'll hit GX and we'll grab it on the X axis. SZ, we'll scale it down again. GX, okay. And then with this object, we can bring this forward. So GY, we'll grab this on the Y axis to around about there, go to camera view, going to hit S to scale it up, and then SZ to scale it on the Z axis, then maybe GX to drag it on the X axis. We're just roughly building up a composition. To help you build your composition, by the way, you can select your camera object, you go over to your camera settings, you go to viewport display, and we'll go composition guides, and we'll go thirds. So this landscape, the first one is going to be on this third. This second one, I'm going to try and aim for this to be on the next third, and also this one, SZ, and I'm going to aim for that to be on that third there, maybe with a few intersection points as well. So this peak is kind of intersecting with that point. Maybe I'll hit GX and we'll have this peak here intersecting with this third here. We're also going to try and frame the turbines to be in each of these boxes, so we've got a good composition going on. Maybe I could actually duplicate this landscape and put it in the background so it fills this middle space here. So I'm going to go numpad 7 to go into top view. I'm going to hit Shift D and we'll drag that across up to about there. I'm going to hit R180 to rotate it by 180 degrees. Go into camera view, hit SZ, and we'll just have that peeking through in the background. GX to around about there. Maybe I'll scale it up a bit more, but then scale it back down on the Z axis. So we've got a nice composition going on there. Now for each of these, I'm going to add a subdivision surface just to smooth it out to avoid any artifacts. So if this object's selected, I'm going to go into my modifiers here. I'm going to go add modifier, generate, and we'll go for subdivision surface. We'll keep it at level 1 for render and viewport. I'll then left click select this one, shift left click select, shift left click select, and then shift left click select, and then hit Control L, and we're going to go copy modifiers. So now each of these have got a subdivision surface at level 1. I'm I'm going to reactivate my turbine, rather large at the moment. We're definitely going to have to scale that down. I'm going to select the blade, shift select the body, and shift select the shaft. I'm then going to change my pivot transform to active element, and this is the active element, the shaft. So now when I scale, everything will scale to the shaft. So let's hit S, and I'm holding down control. We're just scaling that down. I'm not sure how big this is going to be yet until we go into camera view. Let's just position it in a rough place. So I'm going to hit G, and we'll drag it over to maybe around about there. Go to camera view. Okay, that's going to be way too big. Let's just bring it to the center of the frame. Hit G, Z, and we're going to bring it up so it's slightly intersecting with the landscape, which is what we want. And then I'm going to hit S, and we're going to scale that down to around about there. And I'm also going to hit G, X, and I want it to intersect on this third here. So G, Z, we just want a little bit of intersection with the land. So before we duplicate this object, so I'm going to want the wind turbines to rotate, and I'm going to want the body to rotate slightly on the Z-axis. So first of all, let's tackle the turbine itself. So what I'm going to do is bring my cursor up to the top left here until you see this crosshair. I'm then going to drag it across all the way to here, and I'm going to select this option here, and we'll go to graph editor, and this is where we're going to edit our keyframes and add modifiers to our keyframes too. I'll then go to this item here, which is the object properties, and this is what we're going to animate here. So on frame 1, I'm going to add a keyframe here, and then I'm going to skip to the last frame, which is 240. We'll skip one more, 241, and then I'm going to type in 360 on the y-axis, and we'll add a keyframe there. Now the problem is with the default keyframe, the animation will start off slowly, it will then speed up, and then slow down towards the end. We don't want that. We want a constant speed. So when you're over your graph editor with all your keyframes selected, just hit T and then choose linear. And now we're at a constant speed, and that should rotate 360 degrees. So now I'm going to select the body of the turbine, and we're going to want this to rotate on the Z-axis like this, but randomly. So I'm going to add a keyframe on the Z rotation on frame 1. I'm then going to go to the object transform, select the Z rotation, and we'll go to modifiers. We'll go to add modifier, and we'll choose noise. So now when I push play, it's going to rotate left and right based on this noise seed here. Obviously it's moving way too erratically, so maybe I can change the scale to 25, maybe a bit more, 50. And if we want it to loop perfectly, we're going to have to use this restrict frame range option here. We want it to start on frame 1. We want it to end on frame 240 because there's 240 frames. We want it to blend in over 30 frames and blend out over 30 frames. So now if I push play, it should blend out perfectly. Or maybe we can blend in over 60 frames and blend out over 60 frames, just so it's a bit smoother. I'm not really happy with the rotation, it's going a bit fast. So maybe we can change the scale to 100. And we'll change the strength to 0.5. Let's just see what we've got here. We can turn up the strength to 1. Maybe I'll change the scale to 200. Okay, I'll be happy with that. Right, so now that that's in place, take my cursor to the top left here till we see the crosshair. I'm then going to left click, hold it down, and just drag it across, and we'll cancel that window out with all these objects selected here. I'm going to go into camera view. I'm going to hit Shift D and hit X to drag it on the X axis to around about there. I'm then going to go into top view. I'm just going to drag it on this landscape over here. I'll then go into camera view. I'm going to hit G, Z. We'll just drag this so it intersects with the landscape a bit. I'm going to hit G, X, and we're going to intersect it with this third here on the camera. We're going to have to drag it down a bit more. G, Z, just so it intersects a bit more there. Excellent. So we've got the first two windmills in place. We are going to offset these blades in a minute. Where should we place the next one? We could place it in this third here, or in the background here. So I'm going to select the turbine, the housing, and the shaft. I'm going to hit Shift D, and we're just going to drag this to above this landscape. Go to camera view again. I'm going to hit G, Z. We'll just drag it up slightly, and maybe G, X, and we'll frame it in the middle. We can bring it up slightly, G, Z, just so it's hiding behind the landscape. So that's kind of smack bang in the middle there. That's okay. And we'll duplicate that again. Shift D. Maybe we can drag this one. G, X. Drag it on the X axis. Go into camera view. And we're going to have this one in the middle of this third. So G, X. G, Z, just drag it up so it intersects with the landscape. Okay, that's a bit too much of the same height there. I'm not enjoying that. So maybe G, Y, we'll drag it forward. G, Z, hang on, let's go into top view, see what we're doing a bit better. Just drag it up to around about there. Go into camera view, G, Z, we want a bit of intersection there. So let's just shimmy it around until you got your composition. Maybe I want one on this third here as well. So I could choose this turbine. I'm going to hit Shift D and X. We'll drag it on the X axis to around about there, or maybe here. Yeah, we'll drag it to there. So now I'm going to select this, this, and this. Go to top view and hit Shift D, and we're going to drag it to this back landscape. Then I'm going to hit G, Z, we'll just drag this up and hit G, we'll drag it around to about there. So there's a bit of intersection. I'm going to hit Shift D, we'll duplicate that again, and maybe I can drag this forward slightly. So I'm going to hit G, Y, and I'm holding down Shift and then G, bring this down to maybe into there, and maybe I can put one at the back here as well. So Shift D, we'll just drag this over to here. G, Z, roughly randomly distributed. So now let's change the offset for these wind turbines. So I'm going to offset this one by 30 degrees. Maybe I'll tab in 30 here, and then I'll right click and I'll click replace single keyframe. I'll then skip to the end one, which is on frame 241, and we'll go 360 plus 30, and then right click replace keyframe. And we're going to do this random values on each of these. So on frame 1 maybe we'll go 45 degrees. I'll then right click replace keyframe. We'll skip to the next one, which is on frame 241, and we'll type in plus 45, and then right click replace keyframe. So now they're all slightly offset, and we'll keep doing this until they're all kind of offset. Maybe this one would be 78 degrees. Right click replace keyframe. We'll skip to frame 241, and then I'll type in 360 plus 78, and then right click replace single keyframe. We'll do the same for this one. So go to frame 1, type in 90 degrees, right click replace keyframe, skip to frame 241, and then we'll type in plus 90 degrees, and then right click replace single keyframe. And we'll do this until all of them are offset, so none of them have got the same rotation. So now we've done all that, all of those are at different rotational values, they're pointing in different directions. All these housings are rotating at the same value. We're just going to change the offset for those, that's a bit easier. So we'll go up to the top left corner with my cursor where you can see this crosshair. We'll drag it across. We'll open up the graph editor again, and with the housing and with your modifier selected, we're just going to go to this offset value, and we're just going to select all these offsets. I'll show you what it's doing here. We're just going to change the offset for all of them. You can type in a random number. It's probably easier just typing in a random number. I'll then select this one, change the offset for this one, select this one, we'll change the offset for that one. Alternatively, you can change the phase as well. So you just go to phase, you change the phase, choice is yours. Again, we're just going to change the offset. So now all of them should have completely different rotational values. I just close this over here. Now let's tackle the materials. That should be easy enough with my timeline. I'm going to drag that down. I'm then going to get my cursor to the bottom left until I see this crosshair. I'm going to drag it up, and this is going to be my shader editor. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 landscapes, so we're going to have 4 materials. Landscape number 1, let's just set that up. So I'll add a new material, go into camera view. Before we go into rendered view, we're going to go to EV, and we're going to turn off ambient occlusion and screen space reflections. We're also going to go to the world settings here, and we're going to turn this to a really light pale blue, and with a value of 1 for the strength. And now I can go to rendered view. Maybe we can turn the saturation down on that. I want it very washed out. For this first landscape, we're going to turn this to a dark blue. We're going to change the roughness all the way up as well. With the second landscape, we're going to add that same material, but we're going to make it its own unique material by hitting this number 2 here, and then we're going to make it a bit lighter with a bit less saturation as well. The third landscape, we're going to choose material 2. We're going to hit this 2 button here to make it its own material. We'll make it a little bit lighter with a bit less saturation. And finally, the last landscape, which is over here, give that material number 3 We're going to make it its own material by clicking number 2 here. We'll make it a bit lighter and a bit less saturation. So now you can kind of see the layers coming through. Maybe this first one could do with a bit less saturation. This second one could be a bit lighter. Okay, so it gives the illusion of it going into the distance. Maybe we can turn the saturation up on this one slightly. So as for the wind turbines, we're going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to select these turbines here, and then the last object, I'll shift select this landscape. I'm going to hit Control L, and we're going to go link materials. So now if I go into rendered view, these front turbines have got the same material as this landscape here. We're going to do the same for these turbines and the ones behind. So let's just box select these turbines here, and then we'll shift select the landscape last, hit Control L, and we'll link materials. I'll do the same for these ones. So I'm going to box select this, shift box select that, shift box select this, shift select the landscape, hit Control L, link materials. Okay, so now I want to go into rendered view. The turbines fade into the distance the same as the landscapes. Maybe I could drag that out a bit. I'm not quite happy with that. So this turbine here, just going to box select it. I'm going to hit G, Y, grab it on the Y axis till it's kind of behind. Go into camera view, G, Z, we'll just drag this up. G, X, drag it across. G, X, drag it across a bit more, and then maybe G, Z to run about there. Try that out for size. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay. So now I'm going to close my shader editor with this crosshair, just drag it down, and that's pretty much the scene. Now we're going to render settings, so make sure you've got ambient oculation off because that might cause some shadows. We don't want to go for that style. Set your render settings to 64 samples, and we'll go to this output tab here, and we're going to set the file location to where we want our file saved. I've got mine saved under a folder called subscribe. Cheers folks, appreciated. So accept that. You can render out an image sequence and then paste it together in a video editor, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose FFmpeg. I'll go to encoding, I'll go to Metrosky and change it to MPEG-4. We'll keep it at H.264, and then it's simply hitting Control F12, and that will render out your image sequence. So that's the tutorial in a nutshell. I hope you found this useful. Level up, have a great day, and thanks for watching.